Hello everybody and welcome back to Juno New Origins, where we've been working on the design of this cheap, ridiculous little thing. And at this point, I think the design phase is largely complete and we just need to figure out our ascent trajectory. Everything else after that will be pretty smooth sailing. Unless we want to add parachutes to it, but even that would be a very minor thing that I'm not too concerned about right now. So for the moment, let's put this out in the bay where it's very cheap to launch indeed, and let's get this going. So we're going to hit the launch button, and as soon as it loads, the very moment, we're going to get this launching, because we don't want to sink. Launching it in the bay is very cheesy, but okay. I hit the button. I believe that we are going. Let's go ahead and put this pitch at 85 for the moment. And we're going to hold it there until an apoapsis of probably about 10 kilometers, I think. We just need to figure out exactly what we want to have for our ascent trajectory at this point. Okay, so our SRBs have cleared the water now. That's great. We may want to consider having some sort of a launch platform here. That may not be a terrible idea. Perhaps not. That might not be a terrible idea. But it also might be a terrible idea. So for now, let's just continue to accelerate on through here. Of course, the sound is disabled because the sound is very, very buggy when we have this many engines going. So there's that. And let's put this on 2x speed for right now. I don't know that that helps. But let's put it on 2x speed for the moment, and let's see here. So checking in on this timing here. 41, 42, 43. Let's go on to 1x. 44, 45. It's definitely markedly slower. Okay, so that's noted. I think that we might have some attitude control issues at this frame rate from 2x though. So for the moment, I think I kind of want to just keep it on 1x speed. So we just need to figure out where we want this to be in the ascent trajectory. That's all we need right now. And we just need to get a bunch of speed built up here. So as you can see, we're moving pretty slowly at this moment. I'm going to take this back up to 2x speed, actually. I think that that'll be the better way to go. So we're going to hold here until we're at an apoapsis of somewhere around 10 to 15 kilometers, likely. Then we're going to head over to a 70-degree marker, and that's going to be interesting. We'll see how it handles that. But hopefully we'll have built up enough speed that these fins will have decent air control. If not, we may have to go higher, and that's fine. I don't mind that necessarily. It's just a matter of figuring out where exactly this thing wants the gravity turn to be, right? So that is absolutely understood. Apoapsis is currently at about 6 kilometers. And our burn time on this stage is going to be another 50 seconds. So this is going to be a fair amount of time. Keep in mind, on 2x speed here, it's about 1 second per 2 seconds. We have about 2x time dilation going on here. But we are at an apoapsis of about 10 kilometers. I'm noting that we're pitching beyond our target pitch point. I'm going to put us over to 70. Let's find out what happens here. We're pitching very quickly at this juncture. Are we able to hold attitude at 70 degrees? That's the question right now. Apoapsis is looking pretty decent. We're already up to about 20. This is looking good. So at this point, we really do want to be closer to a 45-degree pitch. So let's bring this right on down to 45, and let's see what happens here. Apoapsis is looking solid. We're holding right on the line. And we're now getting a bunch of lateral speed building up. But I want to continue to punch that apoapsis up. So we're going to be hitting 50-kilometer apoapsis right about now. We are apparently struggling to hit the 45-degree marker. That's understood. We've only got about 8 seconds left of burn time here in this stage, so I'm going to maintain this attitude for now. 80 kilometers seems fine. 2 seconds of burn time, and we're burnt off. Okay, so now the frame rate is going to be much better, and we can turn our sound back up now that we've gotten rid of those insane stages. There we go. Much better. And let's bring this guy over to, like, 10 degrees. I'm thinking of targeting around 250 kilometers for our apoapsis here. This feels like this is too much. Hang on. We're bringing it back up. We're bringing it back up. Okay, so we lost a little bit of altitude there by overshooting this. That's understood. That's a bit of an issue, but it's not the world's largest issue in the world. That's a weird way to say that, but it's not the largest issue, to be sure. We have a bit of oscillation here. We're having a hard time holding the exact attitude. This is due to a lack of gimbaling and the fact that we're now in vacuum, so we have to do this entirely with our reaction wheels. These tail fins are doing nothing at this juncture. I want to be at full-on 0 degree pitch and working on pure lateral velocity at this point. I do still want to push that apoapsis up, and that's going to be an apoapsis ideally of somewhere around 250. We need this to go really, really high ultimately, right? So going high on this initial launch isn't that big of a concern. This is going to get us close to orbital velocity, but is not quite going to put us at orbital velocity, and that's okay. It doesn't need to. We should extend our solar panels at this time. And the question is, how far off of orbital velocity is this kick stage going to put us right now? We're throttled down, that's absolutely fine, and let's continue to burn this stage out, and let's see where this apoapsis puts us. Close to 200. Okay, so if we angle for a circularization burn here with our methylox engine, what's that looking like? That's about 500 meters per second. Okay, that's not bad, actually. That's pretty decent. I think we accept that. Beautiful. What? Oh, we impacted. That's wacky. We impacted our booster during the warp. Very strange. That put us in a strange attitude, but I think we'll be okay overall. That'll definitely cost us a few DV in this transfer stage, but ultimately, I mean, we've got 3 kilometers per second in this transfer stage, right? Should be fine. Should be out. So we're just going to hold here, accelerate up our lateral velocity somewhat. And let's put ourselves into orbit. So I'm going to go up to 2x here. This is going to be like a 60-second burn. So let's definitely warp through that as best we're able in this game. So 55% right now, looking excellent. 65. 70. We are in orbit as of now. Excellent. And we can definitely come out of this warp and finish off this burn. 3, 2, 1, and mark. Okay, we overshot it a little bit. Does not matter. So this is the orbit we ended up in. 76% fuel on this stage. I would prefer to have a little bit more of this stage left over, but I mean 2.64 kilometers per second, right? I'm not going to be upset about that. So that's more than enough to take this thing to Silero. So let's do exactly that. If we do our burn here, and we don't care about timing, for the record. If we do our burn here, where does this put us in our orbit? Okay, if we set Silero as our target for right now, because we're going to be going to a moon of Silero, if we set that to our target, that's actually quasi-interesting timing. But what I really want to do here is I want to have this be in a very, very minimal orbit, I feel like, because timing is going to be a bit of a concern. So if we look at that, that's a little overkill, for sure. We pull this guy back, and we can see that, yeah, timing is definitely not ideal. So let's put ourselves in an orbit about like this. What's that looking like in here for the trajectory? Looks fine. Okay, so let's do that, and we'll send this over later on. That'll be absolutely okay. What's our inclination? Our inclination is 0.24. Seems okay. So we'll get this burn done. That's going to be our 4-minute burn, so we will definitely accelerate through that. No doubt about that. And our periapsis may start dropping a little bit here. Are we going towards apoapsis? We're at the periapsis basically right now. Okay, this is pretty ideal then. It's going to drop slightly on the periapsis, but we're essentially slingshotting using the periapsis here to accelerate ourselves fairly optimally, so that's not bad. I mean, that's to be expected, though. We're going to have if we're roughly circularized, wherever we burn is going to become the periapsis very quickly. So that's absolutely expected. So we've got about 40% of this burn finished up at this time, and we're definitely going to need to continue to work our way through this. The question is now one of transfer window. So that is absolutely something to think about, is this transfer window that we've got here. And how are we doing on our battery? So battery's at 80% right now. Now 79. So we're net negative on the battery with these solar panels having reasonable efficiency. That's understood. That said, we've got enough battery to have a pretty long burn time. We just have to have a rest phase between burns for our batteries to recharge from the solar panel. And I believe that once we get this stage burned out, I don't think that these are electric generator. Maybe they are. I'll be honest, I don't remember if these are electric generator or not. Let's see if we can clip in and find out. These do look like methalox. I think they might be electric generator. I don't know. Regardless, there's that burn completed, and now, of course, we're going to want to warp to our escape. Cool. So let's just continue to... No, I want to continue to warp. There we go. Let's continue to warp here. Now we've escaped, and we are in orbit over Juno. So that's wonderful. Now, if we were to do a burn sometime around here, what would this look like for a transfer? Not great is the answer. There is a transfer that we can get out over here. It's a slightly awkward transfer. I'm wondering if we can make that a less awkward transfer. Oh, that's a pretty good transfer window, actually. I like that. That's solid. Let's dial that in a little bit. This is like 2,000 kilometers, 246 kilometers. Let's keep it pretty high. I'm not sure exactly where their moons are, but I want to keep this somewhere around 5,000 kilometers is kind of okay. 10,000? That's probably fine-ish. Let's take a quick peek at what that might look like. Okay, we're not really getting a good projection on that. Noted. Well, for the moment, let's go ahead and execute this. So that's going to be... not this. We're going to go ahead and execute a burn here. Yeah, something like that. We might have to do a small correction burn on that, but that's okay. Let's see what this looks like. So we'll be arriving here, well, now, and let's commence this burn. It's only 100 and some DV, so not too major. In fact, this thing probably has enough DV to be able to visit and land on both of Silero's moons. So there's that. Okay, I'd like to do a bit of a... well, I really want to take a look at what we've got going on up here. So let's go into Silero proper here. Okay, so this is Silero. We've got Herma, which is in quite an inclination. And then we've got Niobe, which apparently we've been to before, at least enough to have this show up like this. So that's understood. We're probably going to target Herma first. So if we set this as our target, yeah, that's a heck of an inclination. I am not sure what our inclination is going to be like when we come in. So let's go ahead and warp up over here and find out. We have so much DV in this. I'm really not very concerned. So looking at the overall approach here, it's going to be pretty equatorial. We might want to do a burn somewhere over this direction to put ourselves in a bit of a jaunty orbit, something like that. That's going to be just a couple of meters per second to put ourselves in a fairly inclined orbit. I don't know if our phasing is going to be at all correct, but let's go ahead and execute that burn. It's going to be a very... But that'll put us into an inclined orbit anyway, and I don't know what we're going to be like in terms of our positioning overall, but let's just get ourselves into this encounter. The next step, of course, is going to be a braking burn, so let's warp on forward and switch spheres of influence. There we go. So we're now in the Silero sphere of influence. Perfect. So I want to be focused on Silero proper here, and at the periapsis, actually it's kind of close on the inclination, but we're going to need some work on that. Let's put ourselves into a fairly minimal orbit here. We could circularize it, or we could just encapsulate, and I think encapsulation is probably the way to go. So we're going to do something like this. That's going to be 167 meters per second. We'll execute that. In we come. And let's commence our braking burn. So we can see Herma's over here. We can see that Silero itself is right here. That's looking fine. And we're going to get ourselves into orbit, but we're definitely going to need to twist around our inclination here. So what I want to do is I want to check the inclination here is 126.96, but we're not in the right phase of this orbit. So we're going to need to fix that. And I think probably the apoapsis is approximately the time to do that. And this would be looking something kind of like this. So I'm going to select Silero here, lining this up so that this is basically just an even line, which apparently this automatically changes it. So we're going to have to be at this angle. And then we're going to move this in to roughly match. It doesn't have to be perfect, but roughly match it, something like that. Okay, so that'll do for now. That's going to be 74.1 meters per second to bring ourselves into rough phase alignment. So we'll do that. Execute that burn. There we go. So that's going to be a fairly cheap burn, and the reason that's cheap is because we are very, very high up here. So as you can see, it's not going to be perfect for the phase, but it's going to be pretty dang close. So at this point, we know that we're going to want to have Herma be at, well, our inclination for Herma is 45.84. Okay, so we're going to want to choose the ascending node here, probably. And we're going to want to change ourselves into a similar inclination. So we're currently at 131.84. I believe we're retrograde to it. So that probably means that we're going to have to reverse our directionality here. Let's find out, hypothetically. This is not the place to do that, but if we reversed our directionality, what would that look like in terms of what inclination it would put us in? Again, this is not the most efficient place to do that. That would be up at the apoapsis, where we basically are right now. Okay, so we're reversing it, and I'm going to turn up the sensitivity. Okay, noted. So let's not do that for now at the descending node here. So at the target descending node, that's the one we want. We're going to want to change our inclination here, but I'm pretty sure we're retrograde. It doesn't actually matter that much. We could probably just go for an encounter right now, actually. So we could think about that. If we wanted to just do that rather than trying to dial in this inclination, that's a doable thing, I would think. So we would bring this in to be about here, and then we just have to think about timing. Yeah, right about like that. 250 kilometers? Doable. Sure, go ahead and execute that. Like I said, ballpark. But you can see here 1.05 kilometers per second. And this is actually because we are in... We're retrograde to it. So we could actually fix that if we wanted to by coming in like here, planting a burn here, and retrograde to overshoot this. Let's turn up the sensitivity. And the question is, how much would this cost us? So we need to flip around our orbital momentum here. This is 200% sensitivity. Hang on. Okay, 250 is too much. So we'd bring this back, and this would be right in around over here. We'd be coming the opposite direction, right? And the timing on that is definitely not ideal. We could dial that up to be like over here. And you can see that's a lot slower of an approach. The timing is not perfect. And we might need to change some inclination in there. Yeah, that's getting us an encounter. So we could bring this into something like this. Go ahead and do it. That will be more efficient in theory. What is this doing? Hang on. Okay, stop this. Yeah, we got our Herma flyby. That's understood. So this is our encounter here. Apparently that was behind us. Whatever. If we did a hypothetical burn here, what would that take in order to get ourselves into orbit? Yeah, so we definitely don't want to do that. We're going to take this around to the apoapsis. So we're going to exit Herma here, and we're going to take this around to the apoapsis. We're going to do a planned burn here. And we're going to want to dial this back in, but going the other direction. So we're just going to want to flip this right on around, as we did before. It was just that it was on the wrong side of us, and that's fine. So we flip this around. This is going to be way more efficient to do this way. Eventually, we'll get this flipped. Okay. Minus 200. Okay. I'm just going to do it that way because that's much quicker. For some reason. I don't know what that reason is, but it's some reason. So now you can see the issue here is one of timing, which is fine. We can dial that in. That's going to be 907 right there. So we can toss in some inclination change to get our inclination dialed in a little bit more and pull this together. Looks like maybe a little bit of radial burn. Ah, this is actually looking decent here. No radial required then. Just some retrograde and some tuning of the inclination. Cool. 59.3 kilometers looks good. Let's go. Okay, so we're going to execute that burn, 137 meters per second, and then you can see this is going to be 165 in terms of relative speed. So this is going to be way more efficient to do this way than it would have been the other way. Keep in mind, we are still operating on this engine. We have not yet gotten rid of our interplanetary transfer stage, and we're going to be landing on Hermes fairly soon. So one thing to question, this is Methalox, this is Carolox, and this up here is also Carolox. Okay, noted. That seems fine. So in that case, I want to warp us around to our encounter. And there we go. So we're now in the Hermes encounter, and you can see this is much more curved. That's a very good sign. So planning a burn at the periapsis, we would do a retrograde burn. And this is now going to be a way cheaper retrograde burn. So bring this in, circularizing roughly, and maybe even bringing it down to like 30, maybe even 20 kilometers. 20 seems relatively safe. I mean, even 15 seems safe. Yeah, that seems very safe. So let's do that, and that'll be 123 meters per second. So much cheaper. Beautiful. So we'll get that done. That'll enter orbit of Hermes, and that should be a new achievement. Or rather, Herma, not Hermes. Okay, so there's our number of orbits on Herma, exceeding 1. Excellent. And what I'm planning is for this thing to actually land on Herma and then go and land on Niobe if we have the thrust to wait. We may impact on Niobe. If we have the thrust to wait to land on Niobe, we may go and impact on Silero to end this particular mission. But this is kind of what I have planned right now, is landing on a bunch of these little guys all at once with crafts like this one. Just to get our exploration finished up here, and then we can move on, would be the idea. But it is about time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. And next episode, we're going to be bringing this on down to a circularized orbit, like so, and then we're going to be landing on Herma, and then probably heading directly on over to Niobe at that point. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Andy McGard, Dark Horse, Xenocyte, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, The Lounge STL, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.